guys. So I shared with you a document, David. You should have it in your email. That document is not this one, but this one. Did you get that? Should be in your email. Okay, good. So all of you should be in this document. You're not going to use it quite yet, but you are going to be entering some information in here. But for now, let me just do a kind of general introduction to learning life. So you guys have gotten some introduction to what we do. This is going to be in part in your interview, but this is in part a refresher and then also kind of elaborating a bit. So let me get to that. Okay, so our world, as I'm sure you guys are aware, is globalizing. The US is on track to become, last time I checked, to become majority minority around 2045. We currently have 18% of our population, which is immigrant. That is up from 5% in 1965. Oops, excuse me. I'm reading this wrong. 14% now, 5% in 1965, and it's expected to reach around 18% in 2065. These estimates, of course, change as the years evolve and with new data, but the point is that we're becoming increasingly diverse as a country. And that's probably represented in part by this presidential election and the fact that we now have the potential of having the first woman, not just the first woman, but the first woman of color as president of the United States. Secondly, there are, as I'm sure you guys are well aware, a growing number of nations that are increasing their influence and power in the world, including the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Third, there are more goods and services we use that are made abroad. I once went, well, any of you can do this if you step into a CVS, go buy yourself a container of nuts and or just simply look at the label and look at the ingredients on the label, and you'll see that the nuts in one pack may come from 20 different countries. And pick up a bottle of juice, and if it's mixed juice, it might or even if it's not mixed juice, look at the ingredients and it might come from a variety of countries. So even within a bottle or a pack of nuts, you get the world, this kind of global trading system. Lastly, many of our challenges, indeed an increasing number of our challenges, are international. Climate change, diseases like COVID, terrorism, piracy, slavery, war, immigration, refugee crises, et cetera, and so forth, are international problems. So given this, we face this kind of a particular modern condition, which is that we are at once intertwined yet disconnected. We're intertwined economically with each other, whether we like it or not, and in many ways politically, whether we like it or not. And yet we have trouble getting along and cooperating for mutual benefit across our lines of difference. So politically and economically intertwined, but socially disconnected. So this leads to a couple of core questions that are at the heart of learning life. One is a diplomatic question. The other one is a democratic question. And the diplomatic one is, how can we, as human beings, get along and cooperate given our differences? And a democratic question is, how can we govern ourselves together for mutual benefit? And this gets to the core mission of learning life, which is to widen and deepen participation in democracy and diplomacy by developing inclusive learning communities. And it's really not learning just for the sake of learning or learning just to get a job. It's learning to participate in self-governance, collective self-governance at local to international levels. And to be able to grapple with difference with people of various cultures, politics, religions, et cetera, and so forth. So we were founded in 2012. We're an educational nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. In doing this work, what we're trying to do is essentially tackle deep inequalities that are growing more unequal. So as you're probably aware, yes, the poverty level for many people across the world is the overall percentage of people in poverty is reducing, but there's a very wealthy segment of society which is becoming much, much more wealthy. It's about roughly 20% of the world population is doing very well, and at the very top levels, they're making huge amounts of money. And that leads to kind of transformation of their lives. Has impacts on politics and economics and so on. And large numbers of people across the world. Yes, the poverty rate is shrinking in the world, but there are still lots of people who don't make enough money. And even more importantly, perhaps, there are deep inequalities in participation in politics and diplomacy that could help to address these problems of inequality. And so that's in part what we're trying to do, is to engage more people in democracy and diplomacy to give them more power to address inequality, to make their lives better. And in the process, to make power more accountable to people. So we have 3 different programs through which we pursue this mission. Locally in the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Democracy Learning Community, or DLC. We have a lot of acronyms. And internationally, we do 2 citizen diplomacy programs, Family Diplomacy Initiative and Citizen Diplomacy International. So some core principles behind our work. One is that we are developing what I call 3C citizens: capable, connected, and caring. And each of those are measurable. So how many people you know, how well you know them, your social capital essentially is the connected part. The capable part includes your knowledge and your skills. And the caring part is that people are actually spending time trying to make the world a better place, not just for themselves, but for other people, dialoguing and collaborating across lines of difference. That's caring. And so we're trying to cultivate more citizens with these 3 C's. We're also about making learning a lifelong thing, not something that just happens in school and then you leave school and you never learn again. Obviously, we all learn in all parts of our lives. And the question becomes, and this leads to the third point, what are we learning? In most of our lives outside of school, we're not learning all that much that matters. And so hence I make this distinction between signia and trivia. So you guys have heard probably the word trivia. Trivia is trivial information. Examples of trivial information include relatively trivial information. It can be fun and interesting, but it's relatively trivial, is like who won in the latest football game or soccer game, or who's dating who in Hollywood or in the entertainment industry. Those things, very entertaining. I like following this stuff too, but to our lives, they're not as important as signia or significant information. Like, for example, who has power? Who doesn't have power? What are the problems that we're facing? What are the dimensions of the problems that we're facing? How do we go about solving those problems? That stuff matters. And unfortunately, a lot of people are buried in trivia and lost in trivial information as consumers, and don't know all that much as citizens that would help them address the problems that are affecting them. Lastly, it's to nurture community. So community is one of our central words, and that is because if we want people to care, you have to connect them to other people in a community where people feel like they belong, they have a sense of purpose, they're connected to other people, and it creates a sense of accountability to each other. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of our programs in turn, and then I think that's pretty much it, and then get to your questions about the readings. So Family Diplomacy Initiative launched in 2016. It is currently our oldest programs. You might have noticed that we launched as an organization in 2012, but we were doing different work before that. Mostly kind of trying to print knowledge of public use and everyday surfaces like coasters, napkins, etc. And then connected to learning online. But now we're doing essentially democracy and diplomacy work since 2016, starting with the Family Diplomacy Initiative. So the vision here in the long term is to train a growing number of skilled family diplomats, volunteers across the world, who represent families on issues that are impacting families and do so in front of or before nonprofits or with nonprofits, businesses, governments, and the media. So it's a several step process. The phases are here in the development of the Family Diplomacy Initiative. But right now, we're largely in phase one, where we're connecting people across borders, having them learn through dialogues. And we've begun phase two, which is training people essentially to develop their voice and their advocacy skills. And phase three ultimately is when we connect them to powers, connect them to media, businesses, governments, and nonprofits so that they can advocate on behalf of the families that they represent on major issues impacting families, everything from war to poverty to climate change, gender-based violence, and the internet. Those are the 5 issues that we're working with right now. I think that's about it. Yeah. The why family diplomacy, one reason is because currently there's lots of school to school or person to person, but not really all that much family to family exchange across borders. And we think there should be, considering the family is widely valued across lines of difference. And it's a major institution that people care about. And yet it's not being activated as a civic agent in the world. 2, we want to make international relations more personal and comprehensible and engaging to more people. So if you start talking about like the structure of the United Nations or like international commodity flows or, economics, you're probably not going to reach most people. But can you reach people by family? Yes, everybody has some connection to family for the most part. And so that's an engaging way to connect people to the wider world. 3 is to try to increase families' knowledge of and interest and skill in engaging with our diverse world, right? So this is where the training of the family diplomats happens. 4 is to bring parents and children closer together in the process of participating in FDI, to reinforce school learning and to reduce inequalities between families. So imagine you've got families across the world connecting. They come from very different backgrounds, they're very unequal, and yet they form a community, a caring community that is focused on advancing the needs and aspirations of families. And in those circumstances, you can reduce the inequalities, help to reduce the inequalities between families. 5, shifting from families as a passive haven in a heartless world to families as active agents, right? So active civic agents in the world. And then lastly, to make families part of the representation in government. So as I'm sure you guys are aware, labor unions and businesses are generally very regularly consulted in policymaking. Families are not. And we think that should change in the long term, that families should be at the decision-making table, but you can't just throw families at the decision-making. You've got to have trained family diplomats who can participate in policymaking. So program number 2 is a democracy learning community where you guys are going to be doing a lot of work this year because we're doing this first democracy festival in the history of our organization and as far as we know, in the history of the DC region. So this was launched in 2019 following Donald Trump's election, and a sense more broadly that democracy is under threat in the United States and the wider world. Our vision is a vibrant democracy learning community in the DC area, which makes democracy more a part of people's everyday life rather than something that just happens every 1, 2, or 3 or 4 years when you happen to vote for the people to represent you. Part of the problem with arguably why we have polarization, disaffection, disconnection, and people don't know much about politics and democracy is because it's not part of their everyday lives the way that other things are. And if we spent more time at it, we would be more engaged and connected and feel less alienated from our government. And so the way we're doing this is by creating kind of easy on-ramps and ways for people to engage in democracy. We started with these democracy dinners. which we've now done. It's well, it still needs to be updated, but we've done 45, and this tomorrow the 46th or 47th, I can't remember, 47th dinner. And we are now doing the festival as the second big step in the development of this democracy learning community. Um, so so we've done these dinners. We've begun doing research and writing and publishing on different aspects of this what a democracy learning community could look like in a metro region. And we are developing the festival and alongside it, this security learning community, which I'm happy to talk with you more about, but that's going to be part of the festival. And you can ask me questions about that when we get to it. So why DLCs? Why democracy learning communities? One is that the decisions of governments, businesses, and nonprofits impact us whether we like it or not. So whether we like it or not, you can't escape politics. It affects the air we breathe, the food we eat, our internet, whether it's any good. It affects our housing, schools, markets, transportation, whether we have climate change, war. All of these things are affected by politics. You cannot escape politics, whether you like it or not. Secondly, participation is highly unequal. There are some people who participate none at all, don't even bother voting. And there are others, like if you watch the Democratic Party convention, those are the top 5% of Americans, that top 5% in terms of political participation. They are highly engaged. They're the activists at the top, at the top of the echelons of American politics. And whether people participate or not, it determines in part whether they have a voice in government and whether their government policy making it affects them or benefits them. Third, most people are socialized far more to be consumers rather than citizens. This gets back to this contrast I made between trivia and signia. How much trivia we know versus how much signia or significant information that we know. And so a large part of our lives currently is more about kind of learning what companies want us to know about, the latest MAGA, or excuse me, anime, not MAGA, anime that's out, or the latest computer games, those kinds of things. Good stuff. It's entertaining, but it's not allowing us or helping us to better understand our world and how to be agents for change or for improving our own lives. And so the point is to try to develop people not just as citizens, but as not just as consumers, but as citizens, right? So the purpose of a DLC is to make citizenship more part of people's everyday lives. And then lastly, to bring democracy closer to people. So if we want people to participate in democracy, you can't just expect them to show up in government. You have to take democracy out of government into people's everyday lives. It's not to mean that, of course, democracy is part of government, or government is part of democracy, but it's not the only part. It should be part of festivals and dinners that we go to, and parties and social events and all kinds of things that are part of people's everyday lives. Okay, so this is the rest of this is funner stuff. I keep forgetting that there's no CDI page in this. The Citizen Diplomacy International is our third program. You guys essentially know about it, but the brief of it is that is our quarterly meetings with people across the world who are interested in citizen diplomacy, to learn about citizen diplomacy and advance its practice. And if you don't remember, does anybody remember what citizen diplomacy is? Putting you guys on the spot.
Can I assume?
You can yes, assume or guess if you didn't remember.
So basically being able to interact with people beyond borders, beyond physically showing up.
Yeah, you're getting at it. It's essentially collaboration and communication across national borders between people for whatever purposes. So as I mentioned to you guys in your interviews, there are all kinds of citizen diplomacy. There is city diplomacy, agricultural diplomacy, culinary diplomacy, music diplomacy, dance diplomacy, health diplomacy. We do family diplomacy. There are all kinds of citizen diplomacy out there. And so CDI is about bringing people together to learn about that and to advance its practice across the world. Okay, so photos of learning life. You might recognize me. This was I don't know how many years ago. I think it's like 7 years ago. This guy is still my mentee. He's now 18 years old, just graduated from high school, and his name is James. And this was the beginnings of the Family Diplomacy Initiative way back, I think it was about 8 years ago. And we happened to be at an election poll, and this is part of his family. So they were involved in our family diplomacy initiative from the start. This is a family from El Salvador that is that was involved in our family diplomacy initiative at its beginnings. A family in Senegal that was likewise involved. The Mustafa family from Jordan. So Hassan, yeah, your neighbors right next door. And then we started to expand the family diplomacy initiative on Facebook. And so these are families that were introducing themselves from different parts of the world, from Senegal to France to Palestine to China and Australia. Initially, when we were doing the family diplomacy initiative, we were like going to people's homes. So here's a family in the US and a set of families in El Salvador, and in libraries. So this was at a public library, family in Senegal and several families here in the US. A dialogue with the family in Jordan, and then families in the US. And in those dialogues, those initial dialogues, they were kind of learning about each other, so asking each other's questions. In this case, Jenna, who's from this family in Jordan, she raises something that looks like it may be something from Rome, the Roman Empire, because they live in Jeddah, Jordan, and Jeddah is home to some ancient Roman ruins. And so on their farm, they may have had some ancient Roman ruins, which is remarkable. So they exchange things like that. They exchange music. In this case, they were showing music from Latin America. At some points, they actually engaged in dance. And they also like learned about each other's technologies, modern technologies they're using. In this case, he's raising a cell phone because the kids in the US are asking, do you have cell phones? What kind of cell phone? Then we started expanding the dialogues. It wasn't just, one family here, two families there. It became kind of more families. In 2021, we did this a series of family dialogues on different issues impacting families, and we began training family diplomats in storytelling and in learning about what's happening in families across the world. So the training includes learning about citizen diplomacy, about families, and about the issues facing families, and storytelling. So last couple of years, we did that training. This year, we're doing something a bit different. We're basically training them in presentation, not so much storytelling about families. So this is Citizen Diplomacy International. That's the collage I showed you guys back in your interviews. The Democracy Learning Community, these photos are of the democracy dinners. They started in June 2019, literally 4 people. And then gradually over time, we went to, during COVID, we went online and we started growing the number of people involved in the dialogues. So we've had anywhere between 15 and 50 people participate in these dialogues. But they're now back in person, and you guys are going to be seeing the first your first dinner this coming year. Excuse me, tomorrow. So Questions. Let's get to stuff that you guys should be that should have done the readings. And so we're going to proceed to those readings and just ask whatever questions have not been answered as yet for you. So let me get to those readings, and I'm trying to remember. The first one, I believe, was the DMV Democracy Learning Community page, that DLC page. Any questions on that one? Or about our democracy work broadly?
I think I might have asked this question when it was just the three of us for the Marymount meeting, but for the democracy dinners that you've held in the past, I know that there's like a subsection for this as well on this on the page that kind of went over the democracy dinners and how many or the like what the democracy dinners pertains to. But has there been any? I know I think I might have asked this already, but I wanted to clarify again. Was there any big names or anything like that that we could share as like a talking point when we're reaching out to people like, maybe it's representatives or delegates like so and so have been to attending these democracy dinners. Has
Hmm.
there been anything like that that we could share?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We don't tend to kind of focus on getting famous people at these democracy dinners because really, our point is not to like reinforce people's tendency to be starstruck by
Absolutely.
political stars or let alone Hollywood stars, but
Yeah,
rather, I mean, democracy is not about famous people, it's about ordinary people. But that said, we have had elected officials show up to some of our democracy dinners, but they haven't been any higher than at state level government. So we've had like a Maryland House delegate and a Virginia House delegate. We've never had a DC councilor show up, but we've
yeah,
had like city. What you can say is we've had like state, city, and county level officials show up
that's perfect.
to meetings. The most famous person you're actually going to meet on Saturday that we've had, but you guys probably don't know him. He's also happens to be our most generous donor, and that is Bill Schneider. He was for almost 20 years one of the senior political commentators on CNN. I actually, when he showed up to one of our democracy dinners a while back, I recognized him. I was like, holy shit, I know this guy. I used to see him on CNN, and he's a very nice guy, very supportive of our work. He's quite old at this point. He walks around. He's had surgery and he walks around with a cane, and it's difficult for him. But the point is, he'll be at the democracy dinner tomorrow. And I encourage you guys actually to go up to him. He's got fascinating stories to tell of all the people that he's met from, Bibi Netanyahu and in Israel to presidents and so on. He just has like he's a fascinating guy. Yeah, so that's I think my long answer to your question is we've had local elected officials at state, county, city levels, and then we have that person. We're probably going to have more famous people show up to the festival, like some more people that are somewhat well known, but
Yeah,
at this point, that's it. So.
perfect. Thank you.
Other questions about the democracy learning community?
Yeah. So do you have numbers like statistics about how much people attended those democracy dinners? Like the number of people you've reached out and compare that to the people that show up, like statistics.
Yes. So we have over 8,000 people at this point, thanks to you guys actually, on the list of people that we communicate with about about the democracy dinners. And they're all in the DC, Washington, DC area. Of those, about 300 have shown up and to dinners, either in person or online, and some of them repeatedly. So, for instance, Bill Schneider has been to a lot of our democracy dinners. So it's the proportion is small of the relative number of people we invite, but That's in part because we can't, we don't have the money to have large events, and, you know, to pay for everybody to, in fact, that's why we, you know, you guys accepted, we generally ask people to contribute to the democracy dinners, because otherwise it's, you know, it's money we have to spend on on those things. So, but you know, I think what's important is the dinners have served their function, which is to put us on the political map in the DC area as an organization that is bringing people together in innovative ways. And the festival is going to do that even more, right? Because we're the first organization to organize a democracy festival in the DC area, as far as we can tell. And we've done a fair amount of research on that. And so yeah, so the community continues to grow, both in sheer numbers, but also in terms of the actual activities that we're doing. Other questions? Okay. The next article was America Needs Democracy Learning Communities. So any questions you guys had on that one that were not answered as yet?
I had one. So in the article, it said how active citizens tend to be more informed and confident about their civic power. And I was wondering, how does Learning Life garner inactive citizens to commit to its democracy initiatives?
Through these kind of easy on ramps, right? So democracy dinners, I should say the democracy dinners have tended to draw people who are already very involved in democracy. So we have not used them, at least at this point, as a way to get people who are disengaged to become engaged. The festival is the most conspicuous kind of concerted effort we're making to get people engaged who were previously not engaged. So at the festival, you're going to see a lot of kids, high school, if all goes well, high school, college students. College students are a different beast than high school students because, of course, you guys might be aware, it's in the United States, it's about 30% of Americans who complete a college, I think a bachelor's degree. So it's a minority of Americans, right? Most Americans do not complete college. So high school students are in some sense more representative than college students of the country and of the people who are not engaged. So we are very interested in getting high school students involved. And it's through things like this. So the festival is going to be one way we do it to engage people who are less engaged. And then this security learning community, to get to that, which I've mentioned, the first event of that security learning community, if all goes well, is going to happen at the festival. And that's the Youth Assembly on Mental Health. And that, if it's at its best, it will attract about 150 high school students from diverse backgrounds in the DC area who may not give a shit about democracy, but they care about mental health. And will come and they're going to learn about mental health challenges, and then they're going to learn about uh, how to, you know, address those challenges via policy, and they're going to come up with policy recommendations. And the process, they'll be practicing citizenship. So those are kind of creative ways that we're trying to do things in collaboration with schools. So, other questions about the democracy learning community?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So in terms of political orientations, do you think that you're narrowing things down in terms of the vision, or like is this one of the missions? I would say that learning life is trying to promote, is just like to bring people together from different political orientations.
Yes. So when I say across lines of difference, it means political orientations, it means religion, it means geography, culture, gender, race, et cetera, and so forth. And, you know, the advantage of the internet is we're able to do all of that because we can, you know, easily, efficiently get people together across those lines of difference internationally. I should note though that the political part is more difficult. It's just like class is more difficult to deal with. Getting people together across lines of class and across lines, social class, I mean, and across lines of political difference is more difficult in the United States. And so at the festival, it's in part a representation of, who we have in the DC region. Most people in the DC region lean to the political left. They don't lean to the political right. And so it's kind of hard to get people. We are going to make concerted efforts. In fact, if any of you are interested in doing this, we are going to do outreach. We have done outreach, and we're going to continue to try to do outreach to conservatives to attend the festival, because democracy is not about just left-wing people. It should be everybody in the United States, we hope, has some devotion to democracy. Of course, that's not always the case, but it's difficult to get those people to show up because democracy does not resonate in their minds the way that freedom does, right? People on the right are more concerned about freedom than they are concerned about democracy. The class thing is another beast. It's very hard to get people who are of different social classes to meet across to become friends, let alone get married, and to collaborate across lines, cross class differences. But we are doing that to a good extent through the festival. Any other questions on the democracy stuff? And I'm going to move to the article about the festival. It's not an article, it's a page on the festival. Any questions you guys have about the festival? Because that's important. And you are going to be representatives of the Democracy Festival, trying to bring people to the festival. So it's important for you to get that language down and understand what it's about.
I know it says on the activities, it goes over like type of the games and stuff that will be there. Do you have any more like specifics that, like, if we're emailing or contacting or calling people, if you ask about what are the food options that are going to be there? Do you have or anything like that we could provide?
Okay. Yes. I'm glad you guys should probably write down questions that you think people are going to ask like this, because some questions I don't have answered, but I can, fairly readily come up with answers. And we haven't like answered it online. And then some questions we have, on the food part, as you might recall, the festival so first of all, it's October 26th, and you're going to be putting this in your calendars. I mentioned October 19th before, but it's finally set, and it's Saturday, October 26th from 1 to 6 p.m. From 1 to 5 p.m., roughly, it's basically 3 sessions, 1 hour long each, with 15-minute breaks in between, and all kinds of things going on. From 5 to 6 is a culminating party where everybody's going to gather together in the same room, and we're going to have food. The food is primarily going to be sweets. We're not providing people dinner. And so for sugar addicted young people, that's going to be a happy place, because there'll be lots of kind of sweets kind of stuff. Yeah, so we'll have drinks, non-alcoholic, and sweets of different kinds at that culminating party. Your first question, I can't remember. It was not about food. It was about
Like more specifics for like the games or activities or stuff like
yeah,
that.
the games. So they're going to be both digital and analog games. The analog meaning like material games as opposed to a computer game. The digital games we're basically going to access through our computers, and there will be volunteers that are working with kids to play particular games. So we're going to need a lot of volunteers for the festival, because we want kids to be able to come to these game rooms and be engaged in various things. Some games are going to get the kids' bodies moving. So we've already come up with like all kinds of games for like particularly younger kids. They just want to, boys especially, all they want to do is move their bodies. And so we're going to have games just to get them moving their bodies and learning in the process about democracy. But we're also going to get like some computer games, because there are a lot of them available online related to democracy. And then there's a board game for more mature kids that are interested in immigration policy. that we're hoping to have, and that's actually comes from the Rand Corporation. It's a think tank in the DC area. They just created this board game. I think it's come out. I still have to contact the guy, make sure that who made the game, make sure that he's willing to show up and lead kids through the game. But we're going to need some teams, probably of university students who want to go through it's I think 3 hours is what he said, to go through immigration policy board game. So if you know folks who are interested in that, definitely those are some of the specifics on
Absolutely.
that. Any other questions about the festival? Okay, so you can always ask questions again. I'm sure the things will pop up, but let me get to where is to the next one, which is Citizen Diplomacy International. Any questions about that reading, about that program? Would love to hear from those of you we have not heard from yet with any questions. Elena, Jacob, David, Walter. Did you guys write down questions about CDI, Citizen Diplomacy International?
I had one question about it. Can people from the US also take part in this initiative, or does it have to be people from different countries?
Yes, people all over the world via Zoom, including the US. Anything else about CDI?
Yeah. So in terms of management, like how do you manage these? Like, do you reach out? Do you like have a link where they sign up, like especially with the time zoning?
Yep. So CDI meetings are quarterly, so 4 times a year. The next one, I'll talk about this. The next one is on digital diplomacy, and it's happening, I think it's like September 4th. And you guys should all attend if you're able, if it doesn't conflict with your classes. That's one thing that can take precedence over your internship, is anything having to do with classes, or if you have family emergencies, by the way. Um, uh, so um, the meetings are obviously East Coast time, and they're either at 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. They start 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. We alternate between those two times. And so we sometimes just make an app available for people to figure out, like, what's the time zone in my city. And so, for people who need to figure that out. And then, obviously for somebody who's living in Australia, the Philippines, Japan, probably not a good time, unfortunately, because it's just inevitable that when you're holding a meeting at a particular time, there's going to be somebody in the world where it just doesn't work. And they're like 14 hours ahead. So that would put that at like early morning. So unless they're, night owls, it just doesn't make sense for them to attend. But we do have an email list for CDI, and people can get on that email list, and then they get invited to the meetings, and we send them the details of those meetings. So that's how people learn about it, is we reach out to them. In fact, some of you are going to be doing this. Those of you who are interested in the international affairs stuff, you're going to be reaching out to a lot of people, inviting them to attend inviting them to get on the email list so that they can get notice of these meetings. Anything
I have
else,
one
CDI?
For the presentations, both for the family diplomacy and the citizen diplomacy, are we helping them with making the presentations, or do they do that on their own?
So CDI, no. There's those people are in fact in September, the September meeting, they're scholars, and then the November or December meeting, they're going to be people who are professionals in the field. They don't need any help. The family diplomacy initiative, though, those people are going to need your help. And they are, because they vary in their experience with presentation, and so those of you who are most interested in the Family Diplomacy Initiative, I will probably assign two of you to help out these FDs, family diplomats.
Thank you.
Jacob?
I just want to ask, I noticed for the CDI that gets like around 20 to 40 international attendees on the calls. Like, is there a certain country where the majority of international attendees tune in from, or mixed?
Yeah, it's a good question. For FDI, people tend to come disproportionately from Africa and West Asia. So the biggest country most represented in the Family Diplomacy Initiative is Pakistan. I have no idea why, but Pakistanis, even far more than Indians, who there are far more Indians that are Pakistanis in the world, but for some reason Pakistanis just are all over anything international. Yeah, so so it's disproportionately people from Africa and West Asia. We don't have nearly enough people from Latin America in the Family Diplomacy Initiative, and I'm not sure why that is. But it's one thing that we're trying to address. For CDI, we get anywhere between CDI meetings, we get anywhere between 20 and 40 people showing up to any given meeting, and we're trying to slowly build that up, the number of people showing up. But those people come from usually somewhere between 10 and 15 different countries, and it's US is well represented, disproportionately represented. So US, Europe, Africa, and Latin America are decently well represented in those. So, okay, last one is Family Diplomacy Initiative. Any questions on that one, the Family Diplomacy Initiative page? Walter, any questions?
My question was going to be about presentations, but you already answered it.
Okay. Any other questions on family diplomacy? All right. If not, we are on time, which is good. And I'm going to share my screen, and we're actually going to start where you guys are going to start writing things down. So let me share my screen and get to that. Okay. So let me go over some internship details. So we're going to start getting into the nitty-gritty of things. So just generally with regards to work culture, I am, as you can probably tell thus far, pretty detail-oriented and structured, and try to be as much as possible. And so I'd like you to be the same. It's attentive to making sure you're getting your work done, and that you're paying attention to details. So don't deliver sloppy work. All of us do grunt work. So some people come to internships thinking, oh, I'm going to do policy work, and I'm going to influence government or something like that. That's not the way internships work for the most part. And it's not. I mean, I do grunt work, and I'm 52 years old, and so there's just grunt work is part of grunt work means, I don't know, Hassan, if you understand that, because or any of you, that term, but it essentially means like simple work that is essential to organizations that needs to get done. So there's that. I review everything for quality control, and have final say on things as the founder and the director of Learning Life, but your input is definitely welcome. So suggestions, questions, observations, constructive points that you want to make are very welcome. Weekly meetings, those meetings that I'm going to have with you, which I'm going to schedule on Sunday, and so you'll get notice of when your weekly meetings are by Sunday. those meetings are vital to making sure that you're getting your work done, and for me to provide you feedback and to answer any questions that you may have. So you'll have those weekly task meetings, as I mentioned. And lastly, on this, I work 6 days a week on Sundays included. Most Saturdays I do not work. This Saturday is obviously an exception because of the democracy dinner. But the point is that you can reach me 7 days a week. But I'm not probably going to have a phone conversation with you or help you with something on a Saturday if it requires a lot of work. That's the one day I'm supposed to take off, and my partner would be pissed at me if I started like setting up meetings at that on the one day that we have off. So, but nonetheless, feel free to reach me anytime between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. Uh, um, and by phone if you'd like. I may not answer, but you can call me up until then, and then you can text me, email me. We also can set up a WhatsApp group if necessary, and if you guys prefer that or would like that. The internship weekly structure. So some of you are doing about 10 hours a week, others are doing 20 hours a week. That depends on you. I don't expect you to do any more than 10 hours a week. It's just be aware for 20 hours a week, you get professional development help. So what that means is helping you with getting informational interviews with people in organizations that you're interested in, that can, in some cases, lead to jobs. But there's by no means a guarantee there. But it's primarily to get you kind of to make connections and to develop your professional knowledge. So informational interviews, helping you expand your network on LinkedIn, helping you develop your LinkedIn profile, helping you with your cover letter and your resume. It's basically 3 hours a week built into a 20-hour internship. I do not recommend 20 hours a week for those of you who are taking lots of classes. If you're taking like 4 or 5 classes, plus you've got a job or you're involved in student organizations, does not make sense for you to do 20 hours a week. But for those of you who have, small number of classes, like an unusually small number, then it makes sense to do 20 hours a week. So you'll have different meetings. Aside from our task meeting, you'll have every week is going to be a democracy meeting through the Democracy Festival. And then there are, as I mentioned, CDI and FDI meetings, and we'll get to those dates, precise dates. And then there are the democracy dinners. In terms of expectations, I think all of you, although actually I think Jacob, you might be the only exception, have sent me your signed NDAs. Is that correct? Okay, I see nodding heads. Jacob, you did not as yet send me that. When you got the first steps email from me, you got an attachment, which was the non-disclosure agreement. Did you get that?
I think I did. I'll double.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I might have, but I'll double check your email.
Okay, so do that now. Look for it, and see if you have it, because otherwise I need to resend it to you. It's the email is I sent you is labeled something like, it's in the subject line. It says something like "Welcome and First Steps," and it has the NDA attached to it. And you need to print that out or sign it digitally. But signature digitally, I just want to emphasize, is not just a typed, in some funky font. It is your actual signature, digital or printed. So you should complete all tasks each week. That may sound commonsensical, but it's sometimes hard to complete all your tasks each week. But that's part of the reason why I strongly recommend that you carve out in your schedule, your weekly schedule, certain times when you're going to do your internship work. And don't leave it up to the last minute, because otherwise you're not going to get your tasks done, and that will reflect poorly on you. And so, especially if you're doing 20 hours a week, you want to set up a schedule where you go, okay, I'm going to Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I'm putting in 5 hours here and 5 hours there and 5 hours. You're actually carving out and reserving that time for learning life work to make sure you get your work done. Respond as quickly as you can within 24 hours to emails, et cetera, and so forth. We run fairly quickly and as an organization, and we have a democracy festival to put on. So there's a lot of work to be done quickly. Show up and on time. By on time, as you can tell from me, I mean within 5 minutes of the start of meetings. So make sure to show up on that time. Pay attention to the details. Don't deliver sloppy work, as I mentioned. Don't take the shortest route or do the minimum. That oftentimes is the case when you're rushed, and it's compound of the fact if you're just waiting until the last minute to get your internship stuff done, you're going to do a rush job, and I usually can tell if you're doing a rush job. Don't, as I mentioned, wait until your weekly task meeting to ask me any questions. You should, if it's about your tasks, ask it right away. As soon as the question occurs to you, do not wait until our meeting and say, oh, I had a question about that. I didn't do the task because I had a question about it. What that shows me is you didn't want to do the task. Not that you had a question about it. So ask the question as soon as it occurs, because you'll need to get an answer from me to be able to do the task. Yeah, so I already mentioned H. In the Zoom meetings, and this is good, it seems like you guys have the habit, do not turn off your cameras unless for some reason you have to. Why? Because if you have your camera off, I'll probably ask you a question and see if you're still there. Because most people in Zoom meetings don't take Zoom meetings as seriously as they do in-person meetings. And so if their camera's off, it's highly likely they're doing something else and they're not fully paying attention. And in this case, you should treat your Zoom meetings just like they're in-person meetings. You should be engaged throughout. And one way of showing me that and showing us all that and showing respect to the people involved is to have your camera on. There are a few exceptions to this. If for instance, like you're going to the bathroom, you can just make a note quickly in the Zoom, hey, I've got to go to the bathroom, I'll be right back, something like that. But otherwise, keep your Zoom on. And be proactive. So what that means is ask questions to learn, suggest ideas, resources, things that we can do to improve. And then on occasion, I recommend this. Most interns do not do this, but it's one way that you can always impress anybody that you're working with is if you do more than expected on occasion. You don't do it all the time. You just want to do it on occasion, because then it surprises people and it impresses people. So internship benefits, I think I've covered these things, but it's worth reminding you. You want to, first of all, make sure that you're doing your best work, because it will affect how much I can be enthusiastic in going to bat for you at the end of your internship, with anybody that you want me to write reference letters for or serve as a reference, or else. But nonetheless, if you do good work, I provide you a work reference, which means essentially that you don't have to ask me. You can just list me on a list of references. 2, I provide you a LinkedIn recommendation, which is basically just, if you've never seen them, it's like a 1 paragraph, like singing your praises. 3, a recommendation letter upon your request. 4, informational interviews. And again, this is this is built into those who do 20 hours a week, but otherwise, at the end of your internship, you are able to ask me to, hey, I'd like to have an informational interview with somebody in your network. Would you be willing to ask them? There's no guarantee, by the way, because I think somewhere between 12 and 13,000 contacts on LinkedIn that I know the person and that they're going to say yes. But you will be able to send me lists of folks if you want, and I can ask them if they're willing to do an informational interview with you. So I think that's it for that. The priorities this fall, and then I'll stop and ask you guys if you have any questions, is are, of course, the Democracy Festival. So that's going to include recruiting partners, donors, sponsors, volunteers, festival goers, research and planning. There's a lot of always research and outreach to do. And for FDI, it's those monthly meetings that we're having to help our FDs do their presentations. And then for CDI, it's going to be growing that email list and helping with research, gathering literature, people who write on citizen diplomacy, organizations in the field, and then this thing on peace through agriculture, which I'll explain to those of you who are going to be working on this. So it's probably just one of you is going to be working on that. Any questions before we go on to this stuff in red, which is going to be where you guys are going to be writing things in? No? Okay. All right, so you're all in the document. What I'd like you to first do is scroll to page 3. And the first thing that you're going to do is under topic areas and work areas, you want to put your name by all the topic areas and the work areas that you're interested in. You don't have to just choose one. You choose whatever ones that you're interested in. Just note that because I will then steer stuff your way. Yeah. For the work areas, you want to do the same thing. I just want to be clear on a couple of them. On fundraising, that it's a wide variety of things that you could be doing. Among them is if you're interested in getting experience in fundraising, and by the way, if you're interested in nonprofit work in the long term, it's a good idea to develop your fundraising experience. So nonetheless, there are a variety of things that you could be doing, and one of them is you can create your own project, fundraising project for any of our programs, and I'll help you through it. It's a learning experience. So the point is not for you to, raise thousands of dollars for us. The point is for you to gain some experience if you want it in fundraising. On Salesforce, just so you're aware, the likelihood is we're not going to do much with that. It is customer relationship management software, CRM software. But if you're interested, have heard of it, it's a major piece of software that's used by a lot of companies and nonprofits. And so you're welcome to, if you're interested in developing your skills or experience with that, you're interested, you can put your name down, but with the likelihood is we're not going to work on that this fall. Anything else? Video, poster editing. Poster editing is primarily through Canva we're going to be using. So if you feel like you have a flair for designing stuff using Canva, by all means, put your name under poster editing. And then research and data analysis, yeah, that varies, but it's a variety of things. So. Whenever you guys are done with that, if you can raise your electronic hands, so I know you guys are done with the topic areas and the work areas. Great. So Jesse, Walter, you guys are, Jacob, is that a thumbs up? Trevor and Hassan, you guys are set. Okay, so everybody's set with that. Let's move on to upcoming meetings. So here we're going to go with each of these meetings. By the way, they're all in Eastern time zone, and they're for the most part via Zoom, except for the bottom ones, which are in person. And so you want to indicate your weekly task meetings all times, and I mean all, that you are available. So you want to put your name down for as many of these times as possible to make it easy for me to schedule a time that works for you, me, and another intern who's going to be doing similar work to you. I'm likely to pair you up if I can, so that part of your meeting will be with a fellow intern and with me. And then part of your meeting will be just with me. It depends on if you have tasks in common, you'll be meeting with another intern and me. And then when it's just your task, it'll be just you and me. But the point is I try to overlap those meetings so that to save you guys time essentially. So go ahead and fill as many of those times under weekly tasks meeting that you are available. And please put a comma between your names. It makes it easier for me to read this stuff. You know what? I think I'm gonna add another time on Fridays. It's a Friday, I think.
Sir,
Yes.
I have a question. So, on number 5, the FD issue, so enter your name below if you cannot attend. So,
Hold off on those. Just focus on the weekly task meeting for now, Hassan. We're gonna get to those in a moment.
okay.
So I just added a time, FYI, Fridays 4 to 6 p.m. If that works for you, please indicate. Okay. Is everybody done with that? So let me know if you're not done. Okay. Everybody.
Sir,
Yep, Hassan.
I just want to tell you that my schedule is still subject to any adjustments because we're still on the adding and dropping classes process.
Yeah, I would imagine for some of you, is that true for others among you?
I don't know about Trevor and then Alan, but in my case, I'm still doing like my schedule, my school schedule, the academic one. So just keep that in mind. I might change for one time and replace it with another time or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to figure that out. It's true that it's right as you guys are starting classes, so it's a little tricky, but I will, if push comes to shove, my plan is for you guys to have at least a first meeting with me this coming week, and we will need, if we need to revise it, we will. But by Sunday, I will send you the dates for your first task meeting, and it will be a Google invite via Google Calendar. And so you should just, if you see it, confirm it, that you can make it. And then if need be, we can change the time. But you'll be included via email in that Google invite.
Yeah, I mean, everything will be finalized by the end of the coming week because that's when I guess the add and drop finish. But from now until the end of the coming week, I just want you to keep that in mind.
Yep. Yep. Thanks for noting that, Hassan. Okay, let's go on to the rest of these. The rest of these, you can go ahead and write your names. Note in red that in some cases I'm asking you to write the dates that you cannot make, and in other cases I'm asking you to write the date that you plan to make. So read the red, and you should make sure to follow that properly. So number 2 is dates that you cannot make. Number 3 are the dates that you plan to make. Keep in mind for number 3, you're choosing one or the other. The board of advisors meets twice every quarter, every 3 months. And the reason why we have 2 meetings is because some people can make one meeting and other people cannot make another meeting. So so you choose one. If you want, you can attend both board of advisors BOA meetings. That's up to you. And if you do that, just write your name by both. It's the conversation will be a little different, but my presentation is going to be the same to the board of advisors. But the people involved will be different at each of those meetings. And those are internal meetings if you're, but I only expect you to attend one of those meetings. Okay. So what I'd like you to do as well is as you're filling this out, please put these dates in your calendar now. I know that takes a little while because there are a number of dates, but you need to put all of these dates in your calendar so that you block that time out and you don't, it doesn't conflict with something else. So please have your calendars out, whether it's a digital or an analog calendar, and enter these dates in your calendar. Jacob, you cannot make either of the 2 of the 3 intern team meetings?
Actually, based on my schedule, actually, I think I should be 5% of the 8th. I would say the 13th of October shouldn't be good.
Okay, so it's just one of them that you cannot make. Okay.
Yeah.
And Walt, it looks like it's one of those possibly you cannot make.
Correct.
Okay. And you may want to use as an abbreviation LL for Learning Life, just to make it easier for you as you're putting these in your calendar. Because otherwise these acronyms can be confusing. So LL is the one thing that will keep you, okay, it's Learning Life stuff. So let me know when you are done entering these things in your calendar. So Trevor's done. Jesse's done. Elena is done. Walt, you're done. Hassan, are you done?
Yes.
Okay, great. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, good. So you guys have all these dates. Note, the our in-person meetings are all at the bottom here. So Saturdays, there's also democracy dinner after the festival. That one is focused on reflecting on the festival. And of course, the Democracy Festival on October 26th. It is a long time. It's 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., but we are going to be providing food for you guys. So yeah, so you'll be able to, and there will be a room, kind of break room for volunteers, where you guys can hang out, when you don't want to be, or if you're just taking a break during the festival. But we will need you, for the festival is from 1 to 6, but we're going to need people a couple of hours beforehand to set up, and then a couple of hours afterwards to just put things back in order, essentially. So, okay. Any questions on that stuff before we move on to intern contact info? All right. If not, next, if you could put, this document is going to be something you can use to come back to, not only for the Zoom links, if you're ever wondering like, oh, what's the Zoom link for this meeting? By the way, most of the Zoom links are the same for your task meetings, for board of directors, board of advisors. It's basically my office number, my Zoom office number. And that number I think ends in something like 2856 or something like that. Yeah, 2852. But there are some meetings here. Notably the oh, you know what? The FD issue presentations, I did not put those Zooms in here. But those have each has a separate Zoom, as do this, I think the CDI meetings. So FYI. So I'll have to put these issue presentation Zooms in here. But so under intern contact information, put your name under mine, where you see mine, your name, your telephone number, your student email and your personal email, both, and then bold the email that you want us to contact you with, on a regular basis. So whichever email you prefer to be contacted with. Why both? Because we'd like to keep in touch with you after your internship, and that will presumably be your personal email, not your university email. Okay. Okay, I just need to, so hold on, guys, because I need to quickly just give you the Zooms for the FD presentations. Each one of them has a different Zoom. It's October. Oops, sorry. Okay, so you guys now have the Zooms for all of our meetings, and that's that. All right, let me just make sure all of you bolded one of your emails. Jacob, you're the one, this one, your Gmail is the one you want us to use.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Notice right below that, at our very first intern team meeting, which is on intern team meeting, September 8th, the same day. I actually organized the intern team meetings that happen on the same day as your the FD presentations. And so I think that's the case, yeah, with all three meetings, they're going to be on the same day. And so on the first intern team meeting in September, we're going to play two truths and a lie. And I just showed you my, was what I usually use. And so you should, before that meeting in September, write down your two truths and a lie here. And then we will spend a portion of that meeting, at least one portion of that meeting, just getting to know each other. So, all right, so we are nearing the finish, and so let me get to the last stuff here, which is just introducing you guys to some simple tasks. So we are actually probably going to finish early, which is I think happy for all of us. But I imagine you guys have stuff to do with school and or just relaxing on Friday. So all of you are going to be deep commenting on and liking FDI posts on Facebook. So all of you, if you're not already in this Facebook group, you want to get into this Facebook group. So let me just make sure that if you're not already in this, you need to get into it. So I'm going to put in the Zoom chat. You should click on it. Make sure you've got your Facebook as active and request to join this group. This is the Family Diplomacy Initiative's most public space. And it is where we post stuff about family life. We post, you guys even get represented. These, by the way, are our GW interns. It's not GW. Some of them are GW interns from this summer. So all of our interns from this summer, you guys will be doing the same thing. A profile of you guys come the tail end of the fall semester. And we share stuff about families. In some cases, people introduce themselves from wherever they are in the world, and so on. So, and we also, of course, share the meetings, the live meetings that we have. So each week before your task meeting with me, and ideally just a few minutes before, you're going to spend 5-10 minutes just going over this stuff and commenting and liking these posts, the most recent posts. For the first time you do this, which is this week, in other words, between now and our next meeting, you want to go over all posts in the last 12 months and just like those posts. You're going to scroll down and just like stuff as read and like. So the point of this is not only for us to get likes, but it's also for you to learn more about the Family Diplomacy Initiative in the process. And so in addition to that, so first step is like all Facebook posts at this Facebook group going back for 1 year. So that's basically till August 23rd of last year. Second thing you're going to do is you are going to comment on the most recent posts in the last month. And when you do that, you're going to deep comment on everything except the things that are saying like, hey, there's a meeting coming up. If it says, hey, there's a meeting coming up and please join us, you can just light comment on that. And the difference between light commenting and deep commenting is in this document that you have here. So you click on that document and you'll see basically what light commenting versus deep commenting is. It's a short document, but it gives you some examples of what light commenting versus deep commenting is. Just to give you an example, light commenting is, 1 to 2 sentences. Oh, that sounds great. Looking forward to participating, something like that. Deep commenting is, that was such an interesting meeting, and in the case of meetings, by the way, in the Facebook group, let me just give you an example. This was our last meeting, and this is useful for you guys to watch. You're going to actually go to the YouTube video of that meeting and just watch five minutes of it. Wherever you want in the video, just watch 5 minutes of it. Just pick 5 minutes in the meeting, watch 5 minutes, and comment on that 5 minutes. Deep comment on that 5 minutes. So you'll do that for anything where we held a meeting and we have a YouTube video of that meeting. We also have these like, hey, these are, films and TV shows and photo collections and songs about family. Those things you want to deep comment on as well. But you generally don't need to do anything other than just like read the post. And if you've seen the film, for instance, most people have seen Encanto, you just comment on what something you found interesting about the film, is if it has a connection to your family life or other things about families, whatever. That's the way to deep comment, is kind of connecting stuff, comparing stuff, and that kind of thing. So you're going to scroll back. So 2 tasks here. I just want to remind you, like everything going back for a year, comment on everything going back for 1 month. So back to July 23rd, all right, it's not all that much there. So this join us this Sunday, just like comment on that, like something like, oh, sounds like it was an interesting meeting, or something like that. These comments that Gabriela Hilario, she's one of our interns in the summer, she posts that you want to deep comment on. And I think that's it. Let me just see here. Yeah, it's not that many posts going back to July, whatever it was, 23rd. So any questions on that task?
Yes, I do have a question. So for the deep commenting on the posts, like the filming post that you showed us, also on the video, one of the videos where on August 11, I guess.
Mhm.
So videos, posts, and what also? The deep commenting.
So deep comment on everything except the announcements of meetings coming up. So like
Okay.
this one, join us this Sunday. That one you can just like comment on. Everything else you're deep commenting on.
And that was going back to what day again? Sorry.
I would say let's make it this one. The going back to July 18th.
Okay, perfect.
Specific about it. So the up to July 18th to all the way to the present.
Perfect. Thank you.
Also, sir, can you post in the chat box the deep commenting and the light commenting?
It's in it's in the document I just shared with you, the intern orientation thing, Hassan.
Okay.
If you go there and click on deep comment, are you looking at my screen?
Oh wait, let me control F that.
Yeah, so go bottom of page 2. It's
Yeah.
got deep
Mhm.
comment and it's right there. You can go ahead and
Yeah.
click on it, save it if you want. But it's a public document, so you should be able to see it. Let me
Yeah.
know if you cannot see it.
I can see it.
Great. Any other questions on the deep commenting and liking? All right. Last task for this. I will have other tasks for you guys. They may be simple tasks for you to do. Again, I'm going to be sharing with you on Sunday, not only when we're meeting for your tasks for your first task meeting, but also a task sheet for each of you. Just to give you a sense of what that looks like. You're going to have, each of you is going to have a task sheet like this. And it will have a little bit of information that I keep in mind about you at the top. The meeting orientation document, which you can easily get to get the Zooms for any meetings. The DMV area as we define it, the DC region as we define it. And then just your tasks for each week, like that. So every week you'll have a new set of tasks and it'll be detailed, estimated number of hours it'll take for you to do the task, and the details of your tasks. So so there's that. And so I will have some initial tasks for you to do for your first meetings this coming week. Okay, which will be on hopefully on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of this coming week. The one thing I should mention before I forget is that I just want to remind you guys that besides the democracy dinner tomorrow, you have the DFL meeting on Monday at 8:30 to 10 p.m. And you should all attend that. So that should be in your calendars. If it's not already, go ahead and put in your calendars. Every other week at the same time, we're going to have this DFL meetings. Some of you have already attended. I think Walt, Jesse, and Dave, you guys attended, yeah, one of those meetings. So you will, so that's the next meeting, 8:30 to 10 p.m. And it's every other Monday at 8:30 to 10 p.m. on via Zoom. And then I think that's it. Yeah, so that'll be until our task meetings that week. Okay, last task for you guys is 4 of you, and actually it's not going to be, at least at this point, any more than 4 of you. And given, let me just take a look quickly. I just want to confirm my sense of who's interested in what. Okay, diplomacy. And this is right. Okay. Yeah. So Hassan, Elena, Jesse, and Walt, if you can stick around because this is a task for you guys only. And then so that means Jacob and Trevor, you do not need to stick around for this last task. So any other questions, Trevor and Jacob, before before you sign off?
No, I look forward to meeting everybody in person tomorrow.
Yes, 4:30 p.m. By the way, for those of you at Marymount, you may want to come together, the three of you. And then for those of you at GW, Jacob, Jesse, uh, do we have and David, you guys, David is going to be coming as well. You guys may want to show up. Oh, actually, Jacob, you're not showing up until what time?
Like around probably 6.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, you're showing up at 6. Yeah. So you'll be there for the actual dinner. So 4:30 for the rest of you, and Jesse, you may want to show up with David. It's up to you, but otherwise Trevor and Jacob see you at 6, Trevor see you at 4:30 tomorrow.
Sounds great. All
Sounds
right, have a
good.
good one, guys.
All right, guys. See you.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. So as you guys might recall, one of the things that we do is we're trying to grow this Facebook group gradually over time. So we grew it from just a few hundred people to 18,500 people across the world. And given that you guys are interested in kind of international work, this is going to be part of your international work. This particular task has to do with you're going to get into a Facebook group, and I'm going to assign you a Facebook group now. I may give you 2 Facebook groups to join, each of you. And then as soon as you get in, you let me know if you're into one or both. And then you're going to invite people in that group to join our Facebook group, FDI Facebook group. So that's a task. Very simple. Every week, you're going to invite 100 people from your group, and we're going to track because we can figure out who's coming from where. In other words, if these people are coming from your Facebook group, Jesse versus Waltz versus Hassan's or Elena's. We'll be able to figure out the progress you're able to make in terms of the growth. And if for some reason the groups that you're in are not yielding all that much, we'll switch you to another group. Okay. All right. So let's get this started. I'm going to share my screen and open up this FDI growth thing. So you guys don't need access to this sheet, but I'm going to be showing this to you every week, and you're going to be able to see how many people are coming from your respective efforts in these groups. So unless you guys have particular preference for joining a particular set of groups, the groups are here. I'm just going to arbitrarily give you a set of one or two groups. Yeah, one or two groups. Okay, so any particular preference for which groups you join of these groups that are highlighted here in column B? If not, the ones that are in color, not white.
I'm interested in the volunteer ones, the green.
Okay. All right, Jesse, you are in that one. So prior, Sunny. And let me. Okay, let me get these to you. I think, and I'm assuming that you and I are connected on Facebook so that I can send you these via Facebook. Let me
Yes,
just
we are.
actually, you know what? it's probably more efficient for me. I'll do it from, let me do it. It's more efficient for me to do it via chat. So Jesse, here are yours. Go ahead and get into Facebook and try to join that group right now. And then let me give you the other one. And I'm going to do the same for each of you. This over here. All right, so I don't need that open. I do need this. In some cases, these groups will automatically add you. If they do, what you're going to see is this sign that you joined and you've got this invite button. That signals that you're already in the group. The invite button and that you joined. Okay, so that's Jesse's. Does anybody have a preference for United Nations and NGO jobs? Hassan?
Yeah.
Okay. Oops. Listen. So in your case, one group should suffice. Let me just give this to you. So this is your group. Hassan, go ahead and join it right away. Anybody want youth exchange projects, Elena or Walt, and language exchange?
I can take those two.
Okay. All right. And then Ellen, I'm going to give you these two, Erasmus and Au Pair Europe. Those are the ones that we're working with right now. The third one, we just leave it alone for now. All right, so all right, so Walter, I'll give you yours in a moment. Let me just give you Elena's one and two. So go ahead and Elena, join those. And then Walter. There's the first one and the second one. Okay. Any of you get immediately into any of these groups? Or are they all like pending?
I got into the volunteer abroad one right away.
Okay, good. Anybody else automatically added?
The au pair one, I have to download an app for it first.
You have to download an app? Wow.
They require a community app. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Erasmus, likewise, Elena, that one has not accepted you yet.
Not yet, no.
Okay.
I got into the youth exchange project. I'm gonna try the other one.
Okay, so good. So you're in youth exchange.
And the
Yes.
language exchange, I just got in.
Oh, so you got into both of yours, Walt?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
excellent. So you're going to be able to do your task fully. What you're going to do in your case, Walter, is 50 in one and 50 in the other group. You're going to do invitations in both. And I'll show you guys in a moment how to do these invitations, but I just want to convey that 50 in youth exchange, 50 in language exchange. Jesse, for now, if international UN takes too long, just do all of yours in volunteer abroad, the full 100. When all of you or each of you do your invitations each week, I recommend you not do all of them at once. In fact, you're likely to get blocked if you do that. So you want to split it up, ideally in 4 days, and just do it over 4 days, 25 per day. And in that case, Facebook is not likely to block you. If you do any more than about 25 to 30 per day, or at a time, I should say, not per day, their algorithm is more likely to think you're just trying to spam people. So, FYI, best is 4 times on 4 different days, or 4 different times on, let's say, 2 days or something like that. The point is you don't want to do it all at once, nor even half of it at once. So, okay. So you guys are connected, or at least trying to get into each of your groups. Hopefully you can get, you know what? I'm going to give yours, I'm just going to copy this one as well. I'm going to give you this third one just in case you have trouble, Elena, getting into the first two. Okay. So go ahead and join that one and see if they automatically add you. All right. So you've got that part. We've settled on that. Now the messaging part. Okay. So let me find the message. FDI. See, guide to comment deeply, 100 invites. Here we go. So this I'm going to give you guys access to. Sorry. All right, let me just, these are former interns. Oops. Okay, and let me just see here. So Jesse, and I'm gonna send this to your Gmails because Google Drive just prefers, of course, that we use Gmail. And Walt, sure. Oh, doesn't come up. Walter, what's your Gmail address?
Walter M. Heiser at gmail.com.
There we go. And Hassan. Okay. All right. Okay, so you guys now have access to this. Pretty simple. I'm going to run through this with you anyway, but they're the step-by-step guide to doing this messaging is pretty simple. And then the message that you're actually going to use is this one. It's the first message. If they happen to respond, oops, no, that's not it. So the first message is this one. If they happen to respond, you then send them the second message. And if that's obviously if they respond with some at least mild interest, like thumbs up, okay, thank you, something like that. Tell me more. Um, any basic kind of response, like an okay or a thumbs up or thanks, which is mostly what you're going to get. You send them the second message, and the second message is basically telling them, hey, if you want to get more involved, here's more information, and you can fill out our FD's application to serve as a family diplomat. The first message is just telling them, hey, there's this Facebook group. You might be, given that you're in this group, the group that we're both in, you might be interested in joining the family diplomacy group. And that's it. So the way you're going to do this is you go to your group, and in this case, I'm a member of them. You scroll down. So in your group, you've got people. You scroll down to new to the group. And you hover over the person. You don't need to add them as a friend. You just hover over the person. It's interesting. They must have changed that's weird. Okay. Maybe not her. Yeah. So she's obviously got her settings blocked, so that you can't message her. But this guy has it open. You put the message in that I just copied, that message number 1. And you change the name with each person. So in this case, George. I'm a volunteer, blah, blah, blah. And then you need to change the name of the group that they're in. So in this case, it's volunteer abroad. So someone also in the Facebook group Volunteer Abroad, I'd like to invite you to join our family diplomacy initiative on Facebook. FDI connects people, blah, blah, blah. And here's the link if you want to join. And that's it. Send. You're done with that person. You do that 100 times in a week. So you just scroll down to the next person, do the same thing, and then the next person, and then the next person. Now, you'll notice that they indicate when when these people joined. Fortunately, this group has people joining, lots of people joining, and that's good because you're going to be sending 100 invites. But if you find that you're having to scroll through a lot to get to the people you have not messaged over coming weeks, that the group is just growing too slowly, let me know and I'll add you to another group so that you can then just invite people in 2 or 3 groups. Generally speaking, you shouldn't need more than 3 groups to send your 100 invites. Okay. And then again, as I mentioned, so that's the first message. And the other part of your task each week is you check your messages, right? If people have responded, and if they wrote, okay, thank you, tell me more, something like that, you send them the second message. Where is it? Second message. This one right here. And there, you don't even have to put their name in. You just copy and paste that, send it to them. And that's it. Now, because you're sending this to like 100 people per week, and Facebook has like, I don't know, it's something like 2 billion people on it. First of all, there are some people are going to go, I don't, tell me more about this, this organization. I don't know anything about it. Tell me about, and clearly you're sending like 100 messages a week, right? So it's a lot. So don't worry about answering questions unless for some reason it seems to be a question that's not answered in the links provided. If it is a question that's not answered in the links provided, you can forward them to me or connect me with them, and I'll be happy to answer their questions. Otherwise, most of the time, people are lazy and they're not going to read the links. And so all they need to do is you can just forward them and say, hey, your question's answered in the link. Okay. Second thing, We've had situations where somebody, let's say there's, I think, a guy from Jordan who thought, well, you look attractive enough, Jesse, want to get married. And so we've had situations like where people are, I know he was from Syria, and he was a Syrian refugee. Clearly, there are all kinds of people on Facebook, and some people cannot wait to get out of their country because there's a war going on, there's climate change, there's, poverty, whatever, and they suddenly get an invitation from somebody who looks like they come from the United States. Hey, I'd like to get to know you, and become your friend, if not get married to you or something like that. You do not have to answer those messages. You're just getting a task done to grow the group. So don't feel like you need to become these people's friends. It's unfortunate. We live in a very unequal world. People understandably want to leave their countries in some places, but there's just nothing you can do about that, right? Unless for some reason you find the person really interesting, and that's it's your own personal, like, by all means, if you want to make friends and so on, I don't want to stop you from that. But my point is, for the purposes of this internship, you don't have to befriend these people. You don't have to connect or friend them and so on. And I just want to forewarn you that some people may be, try to be friendly, and you have to just understand the broader context that people who live in countries where people want to move, you're more interesting to them, especially because you're contacting them out of nowhere, and they're not used to getting contacts to people from those countries. So, yeah. So that's that. Any questions about that?
Yeah, so I'm just using like the cliche, just copy paste, unless someone was really interested. I'll connect him with you.
Yeah, so you're just copying, pasting the first message. Just remember, the first message, you have to change the name of the person with each message you send. And
Yeah,
you have to make sure that the group is the correct group, right? Because if you have two different groups, that means you have to change the name of the group for, when you send out your 50 or 25 for one group, you change the name for that group, and then for the other group, you have. It's in red in that sheet that I just shared with you. So the
yeah,
parts that you have to change.
yeah.
Um, and the second message, no need to change anything. You just send that if they happen to express interest.
Mhm.
That's it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Lastly, this recording will be available for us to watch it.
Yes, good question. I will make the recording available for you guys to watch in case you have anything. And, I don't expect you to get stuff exactly right the first time. It's new to you, so you may screw up or something. But the key thing is you're going to learn and you'll get better at stuff. And and these tasks are pretty simple, so it shouldn't take you very long to just figure out how to do it. But it's not the end of the world if you do something incorrectly the first time. But yes, I'll send you the video and you can watch it for any clarification you need. All right, guys. Thank you for your time, and I will see you in person tomorrow. Hassan, you
Sir.
have a question
Yeah, so Marymount reached out to me they want more info.
for your acceptance letter.
Yeah,
So did you get my email that I sent earlier today? Because I
I
sent
got it, but it's still missing so according to their email, they said, Hassan, you're missing a statement that says the 120 is the minimum internship hours. Also, your internship organization's full address and if they will be working remotely or in person.
yeah.
I can share my screen with you.
Walt, you don't have to, you can bow out because this is just for them at Marymount. So see you tomorrow. All right, see you. Yes, in both your cases, I sent you an email that has, so today, check your email because because Trevor asked me for the same thing. And I provided an email. I'm just going to check it now to make sure that I gave you exactly what you needed, the information, but it includes our address. It includes all that information that was in the let me just Hassan, I'm looking at the acceptance letter that I just sent you. So it has, you're going to be working more than, because you're doing 20 hours a week. And I'm going to show you on my screen so you see what I'm looking at. And Elena, did you get the correct letter?
Yes, I did, and I already uploaded mine.
Okay, good. So you're all set. Elena, see you tomorrow at 4:30.
See you. Thank you.
Bye. Hassan, did you get it?
Yes. Uh-huh. Looks
Yeah,
good.
so it has everything you need, including street address, that you're going to be working more than 120 hours, and I think everything else.
Okay, I really appreciate that. And for the activities tomorrow, are we just like showing up, meeting, stuff like that, or will it just be like an informative kind of a panel, like a discussion about
It's
the
a, it's a, it's a, so you're going to show up at 4:30, and you are going to, what are you going to do? You're going to,
organize, eat,
yeah,
and
so basically, I will provide you with all the instructions you need, but once you get there, you're basically, going to help with setup. Then we'll have reception, and then dinner and discussion. That's what's going on. And then cleanup.
sounds perfect.
All right, Hassan. I'll
So thank you
see you
so much,
tomorrow at
sir.
4:30.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Goodbye.